Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
With Inside the HBCU Sports Lab, welcome to episode 392. Countdown to 400 is on its way. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports for institutions large and small, from the NIL to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs in the business of HBCU sports. We simply call it HBCU Sports Pedagogy. I'm your host, Dr. Cavil, along with my co-host, Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. We're filming from our home studios and sending a signal live at KCOH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, multi-Hall of Famer, in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. As you see, Mike Washington is still on assignment, but we have the greatest pinch hitter of all time in terms of HBCU sports for sure. None other than A.D. Drew. How you doing today, Drew? Looks like you're on the road somewhere.
Yeah, I am on the road. I am in Atlanta, Georgia right now. Look like it's going to be the first of 2 weekends that I'm going to be in Atlanta. Obviously, next week I'm going to be here for the SIAC baseball tournament. But this week, I am here for an emerging sport, NAIA women's flag football. Don't sleep on it, fellas. These young ladies look like some of these highlights should be on ESPN with the one-hand catches, the diving catches, the over-the-shoulder catches, the getting mossed. And I've seen some D-backs moss a couple wide receivers on some interceptions. So this is, don't sleep on them just because they're female. These women are athletes. But I do have one thing that I need to say. When you're on the road and you don't have all your lighting with you, you definitely realize that you are the darkest person on the panel when you're in a hotel room, because no hotel room is lit well enough to properly do a podcast. I'm just going to say that.
It depends on where you're staying. There's some mood lighting.
That's what happened when you got all that money. So you got the mood light. I'll tell you this. You certainly made it interesting for me to look at flag football. We talk about Boston and all these kind of shifting moves. I was like, all right, go ahead and play this. So you did your job. You made me think twice about flag football. With that being said, Charles, how you doing today?
Doing well.
Those of us that are in the mood, like.
Yeah, they're doing well. Got a chance to catch a little bit of Texas Southern baseball this afternoon and get back home in time enough for not only the show, but to start dinner. Happy wife, happy life. So.
Oh, there it is. You're a smart man. I see why you get it done in so many different ways.
Got two words for you said. Crock pot. Then you won't have to worry about it.
Got two better words. Air fryer.
Man, it look like y'all both have a great plan, so I'm joining the team. With that being said, since you were out the ballpark, you have any updates, scores, anything that was going on out there that you need to share?
Actually, Alcorn and Texas Southern are in the top of the ninth inning now, tied up 4-4, but a little bit of historic news for Texas Southern baseball earlier today. Abraham DeLeon, he set the single-season strikeout record today for Texas Southern back in the second inning. But I'll tell you what, I'll give credit to Alcorn. They touched him up pretty good today. He gave up 3 runs over 5 hits over 3 innings. So a pretty good ball game going on over there at McGregor right now.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Kudos. I remember last time we were on the show, he had tied the record of the weekend. So now he goes to the top of the list. That's pretty cool over the last 2 weeks. And then saw some footage out there on Instagram where the VP of Athletics, Dr. Kevin Granger, and the head coach, Michael Robinson, provided a gift or awarded a good schematic of him coming off the hill and pitching to get those 100 strikeouts plus over the years. And now at 105 is my understanding for the pulling as he sits at the top. That's fascinating to see that take place. Good stuff there. With that being said, let me go back to you, AD Drew. What else is on your mind as you are in Atlanta? Always nice to get to Atlanta. I have a good time with Atlanta, man. So you take care and don't have too much fun while you're there since you're doing all that work.
As long as I keep doing these podcasts with people like you, I keep myself well grounded.
No doubt.
We ready for the news of the day, Dr. Cavil?
What you got?
What I got, I am going off. Since I'm here doing a sport that's off the beaten path, I'm going to continue that trek and go further down the beaten path. But I am going to circle it back to HBCU. Let's talk tennis, Dr. Cavil. Xavier entered the NAIA tournament as the number 3 seed in the NAIA Nationals. They won yesterday their quarterfinals match, but their season came to an end today as they lost in their semifinals match to Southeastern Florida by a score of 4-2. So congratulations, Xavier. Xavier set a single season record for the most wins in program history, ultimately finishing 22-7 after today's defeat.
Man, that is commendable. Final 8 teams at the NIA level, that's significant. And then when you put on top of it the percentage of winning they got done, it's good that you got a shout out there. Kudos to Xavier. Showing some folks they can play some tennis around here. Good stuff. With that being said, Charles, what else is on your mind with a little bit about the news today? What is capturing your attention?
Yeah, well, let's take a look at the SWAC Baseball Weekly Honors from actually this past week. I don't think we touched on it on Tuesday, but the SWAC is tabbed Bethune-Cookman's Highland Hall and Texas Southern's Cade Fontenot and Southern's Nicholas Wilson for SWAC Baseball Weekly Honors for their outstanding performance during this past week of conference play. Let's take a look at the hitter of the week, which is Highland Hall. He was nearly impossible to get out in a series for BCU over Florida A&M as he finished the weekend, 10 of 15 at the plate after 3 multi-hit games in which he totaled 4 RBIs, 7 runs scored, 3 doubles, and a pair of triples. Hall also added a walk and a stolen base. Wow, 10 of 15. I don't think I've ever seen that stat line. He had a heck of a week. Co-pitcher of the week is Fontenot. He had a career day with a complete game, 11 strikeout performance on 5 hits as it allowed Texas Southern's baseball team to win the series over Prairie View by a 2-0 margin. That game, of course, was played down in Beaumont. Also, co-pitcher of the week, Nicholas Wilson. He pitched 8 innings for the Jaguars in a shutout victory over Alcorn State. He struck out 11 batters while only giving up 4 hits on the day. So those are your SWAC players of the week.
Good stuff, man. It's getting interesting. We're into the last week. And as you alluded to earlier, a couple of ball games being played today. We'll see if we can get you some of those updates as well. But let me go back to Drew, AD Drew, Professor Drew. What else is on your mind that is grabbing your attention in terms of news of the day?
Let's talk NIL, Dr. Cavil. And let's talk about the king of NIL. That being Rayquan Smith, formerly of Norfolk State. I said formerly. He's on the move. He's going down to CIAA country as he is going to Elizabeth City State to finish out his eligibility at Elizabeth City State. But y'all, he's not in the transfer portal like a lot of people in the transfer portal. He did complete his bachelor's degree at Norfolk State before entering the portal. So we definitely want to make sure we commend him on that. He started out Norfolk State playing football. Then with the with injuries and the coaching change, he decided to focus on track, which he had a very successful track. But I believe he's going to Elizabeth City to resume his football career for the Vikings.
Good stuff. Great points. Yes, kudos to the NIL King as he completed his undergraduate degree. Always something to be excited about. Charles, what else is on your mind?
Yeah, big news, and this comes from Durham, but the HBCU champion North Carolina Central football team, they were recognized on Capitol Hill as Democratic Representative Valerie Fushi, who represents North Carolina's 4th district, comprised of Roxborough, Chapel Hill, and Durham, where North Carolina Central is located, formally presented a resolution acknowledging and commending the Eagles for their 2022 Black College National Championship, which included a 41-34 win over the SWAC champion Jackson State in the Celebration Bowl. So kudos to the North Carolina Central Eagles as they were formally acknowledged there on Capitol Hill.
On Chapel Hill.
All right.
They do have a Chapel Hill as well.
Exactly.
I don't think they were there, nor do they have a lot of excitement to be there. But Capitol Hill, much more excited about that presentation. Kudos to North Carolina Central, still in some headlines. AD Drew, what else you got?
I was going to ask, is that the first HBCU champion to be recognized on Capitol Hill? That's the first time
I know last year South Carolina State went up there.
They did.
And that was in South Carolina. And I think a couple of years ago, North Carolina A&T as well. But yeah, it doesn't happen as often as it should. But lately, once it kind of happens for one group or one state, it gets done. I will say this. I do know here in the state of Texas that the Texas Southern cheerleaders, when they won their national championship, they were invited to Capitol Hill here in Texas, and they made a move and went over there. And I heard that they were the talk of the Capitol, which is probably pretty good with all the other talk going on there. But sometimes less is more, so I'll leave it right there.
Right. But my last nugget for the day, Shaw has a new associate AD of compliance and senior women's administrator. The Shaw Athletic Department, and this comes from CIAA.com. Shaw Athletic Department announced on this past Friday that Courtney Washington is its new Associate Athletic Director of Compliance and Senior Women's Administrator. Washington, who has worked both at the NCAA Division I and Division II programs, comes to Shaw after a short stint down you guys' way, fellas, at Texas A&M Commerce. Before holding that, she served at Alcorn State as Assistant Athletic Director for Compliance and Student Athlete Service for the Braves. Before Alcorn State, she worked at University of Memphis also. And there's a lot more of her bio that's in this article. She's a native of Cleveland, Mississippi, holds a bachelor in public policy from the University of Mississippi, folks. And
all over the place.
A massive education in sports management from Auburn University of Montgomery. And so, yeah, kudos to Shaw for getting them. Looks like they got them a jewel.
No doubt. Good doubt. It'll be interesting.
Got one more for you, Doc.
All of it going on, so it'll be fascinating to see what that looks like. Charles, you want to get something?
Yeah, one more piece of news today, and this is a big Mississippi Valley State. That's Naya Moran, who is the younger sister of Memphis Grizzlies All-Star John Moran. She decided her first scholarship offer was going to be the one she wanted, and she announced her commitment to Mississippi Valley State women's basketball team this morning. So Kudos to Hakeem McClellan and the Mississippi Valley State Delta Devils as they bring in tonight Nia Morant, John Morant's little sister. She'll be playing in the SWAC next year.
I'll certainly be interested to see how that goes in the SWAC. Congratulations to her. Anytime you can earn that D1 scholarship, that's a pretty good thing in Valley. Certainly a great institution to go get your undergraduate degree and play some basketball and extend your career. With that, I know A.D. Drew kind of shared this earlier in terms of some of our private forum, but it's officially out now. SIAC returns to Atlanta, talking about Atlanta, to host a football media day in return of the Hall of Fame ceremony. So that's exciting news to see they're returning that. SIAC will begin the 2023 football season with its annual football media day on Wednesday, July 12th at the College Football Hall of Fame. This year's event will be a precursor for the return of the SIAC Hall of Fame ceremony. The SIAC Hall of Fame event will recognize individuals whose accomplishments on and off the playing field have had a lasting impact on the conference and are worthy of induction to the most exclusive group of SIAC legends. Additionally, honorees have distinguished themselves with the contributions to the rich history and tradition of our membership institutions. Since its inception in 1992, the SIAC Hall of Fame has welcomed 155 distinguished honorees, so it'll be fascinating to see these individuals who will be honored in regards to the SIAC. I'm happy to see what that looks like. As it was stated here, quote by Anthony Holloman, the SIAC Hall of Fame is steeped with traditions like the NFL Hall of Famer Shannon Sharpe, John Stallworth, Olympic gold medalist Alice Coachman, and Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame coach John Chaney, among others who have been honored in previous classes. Remember, when you talk about John Stallworth, yes, of Alabama A&M, but at that time, Alabama A&M was playing football in the SIAC. For those that may have heard that and thought twice, good recognition in terms of what that looks like. Kudos to Commissioner Anthony Holloman for bringing back the Hall of Fame. I think that's fascinating to see what that looks like. So kudos there. Let me get a shout out for our listeners and viewers, Theron Waters, those lab listeners out here, Chuck Hunt, Silas Edward McMorris, Thomas Einstein Maddox, Jeff Roberts says Aggie Pride. I see you. Theron Waters, Jeff Roberts, as I said, getting in here. Chuck Hunt. Oh, man, Chuck Hunt was listening to HBCU Nightly. He said Dr. Cavil spoke facts on HBCU Nightly, May 10th and 17th. He got one of those speakers straight on May 10th, which she is delusional know-it-all. Oh, I didn't mean to do all that, but I love to make sure that people get the right information, that's for sure. Brother Wendell Davis says, greeting lab professors and listeners, no doubt. Carl Edmond, Corinthian Morgan, G. Boom Holly in the building, in the house. Got to watch the final lecture of this week, no doubt. Appreciate it. Good evening, Doc and the professors, brought to us by Edwin B. Moore. Chad Cooper is up here. I see Thomas is representing. Jonathan Hernandez in here as well. What else we got? A couple of more people in here. Chandra Smith. With that being said, I'll be on the road. I'll be at Black Student Athlete Summit in Los Angeles. I'm fortunate that they're going to bring me in. I'm going to speak with the panelists. I'll be the host panelist, and we'll be looking at Coach Prime as well as Ed Reed, looking at obviously what took place over the last couple of years in terms of what I call the Coach Prime effect and how that is affecting the HBCU. So we'll have a couple of panelists, one that is at Fort Valley State, serving as the athletic director. So we get a perspective from that view. And then we also have Fayetteville State professor that's over there and that's doing work at a center he has that's going to provide some framing of this institution as well. And obviously, since I'll be down there, the Lakers are in the Western Conference Final. They play on that Monday. So don't be surprised. Be waving at Hey, I'm just saying, you know. Some things
you get it one of those sweets. That's when you need to rub it in.
Exactly. With that being said, let us go to our first break. We'll come back on the other side. We'll get into a little talk. APRs came out a couple of weeks ago. We gave it an information. We'll take a little deeper dive. A.D. Drew has broken down some numbers. So we're going to let him spend a little time and give us some insight in terms of what he's gleaned before we do that. And so we'll do a segment on that to see what that looks like. Just give you update in specific of where APR, where some HBCU stands, and how we should continue to look forward. With that being said, stick with us. We'll be right back after this break.
The Cavil Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cavil.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentjax.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to The Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
Press the analytic data with your hip-hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want to law, and who the ball.
The human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted Cover's voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KEAVERSVOICE.com. Cover's Voice, Cover's Voice, CoversVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
Oh, we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn.
Press the analytic data with your hip-hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want to law, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
HBCU Sports Lab with Professor Drew, Professor Bishop. We're going to pivot a little bit, as they say in the industry. We're going to come back and give you some APR in the third segment so we can really get you a good dive in that. But we want to get into this poll rankings as we start to close out things this last week, as we talked about baseball, as SWAC are playing a set of their games for 3 days. They're playing starting Thursday. Usually they do a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They're actually doing Thursday and Friday and Saturday. So we'll maybe to get you a couple of scores in here if these scores start to trickle in a little bit. But as we say that, softball is in the tournament. We told you about those matchups with North Carolina Central winning the MEAC and with Prairie winning the SWAC, back-to-back champions. I like to remind Charles at times. But with that being said, let's get into the softball. And as the BCSN, Brian and AD did those rankings, they're out. So I wanted to show a little love and make sure we get these rankings in. And I always like to see what Charles thinks about these poll rankings. You know, I do mine in the fall. You know, it's actually Charles and Mike, but Mike's not here. So I got to compete with you a little bit, Charles. I love to see your thoughts on these rankings because they're always intriguing in terms of whether you agree or you be like, maybe not so fast. Come on. With that being said, let me get in here a little bit with the top 5 programs here. Softball, as things come to a close, we got at number 5, Grambling State, 33-22-1. 18-11 in terms of the conference play. They came in with 53.2% at number 5. At number 4, you have North Carolina Central, 19-33. They won the MEAC, 16-18 in conference. They finished in the 3rd position. We're right there pushing for first, but had a tough last 2 weeks, and things kind of fell off. They were outside of the ranking, but I guess with the tournament run, they pushed them in the top 5 with 55.71. At number 3, you have Alabama State, 30-21, 18-9, 56.36 as they stay at number 3. Remember, they won the Eastern Division, but they went in the tournament were 2 in barbecue, as we like to say, meaning for those that are not used to this baseball, softball term, right? They lost their first 2 games as they go into the loser bracket and can't get it going. Losing both times to Western Division teams, I might add. At number 2, Morgan State Bears, 24-21, 14-6. They do finish with a winning record. They have the regular season champion in the MEAC, 57.7. They finished in 2nd position. And at number 1, probably really shouldn't surprise most anybody that's kept up a little bit with softball. They are 28-18, 26-2, 73.55. They remain at number 1. I will say, just for your knowledge there, Charles, one of the teams looking from the outside was Bethune-Cookman at 19-31. They made a semi-run in the tournament. Tennessee State is the highest ranked softball program that's outside of the MEAC or SWAC, what we refer to as independent. They finished at 22-26-1, 13-13. First time in more than a decade that they actually made their OVC conference tournament. So kudos to them for that. But with that being said, Charles, what do you think about the poll rankings? You think it's about right? There's a team or two that you're like, scratching your head. I've seen a frown. I can't always tell you frown. Sometimes it's just that. The other times with me.
I take a look at Prairie View, Morgan State, no issues. But I guess my question, AD, Doc, is how much weight do we put on our regular season? Or especially with regards to Alabama State winning the East. But that 2 in barbecue leaves that lasting impression. So is there a Western team in the SWAC that probably should have been moved up, namely Grambling?
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Let me go to you, Drew. We don't get a chance to have you on here to really break down the composite components. We tell everybody it's a computer base. As you answer that question to Charles, also go in a little bit about how the tabulation comes in to putting this ranking system together.
Well, that's a very fair question, Charles. But in the eyes of the computer does not necessarily differentiate between the marathon and the sprint. It does, however, take into the fact the strength of schedule of the teams that are played. Unfortunately, in the tournament, sometimes the tournament hurts some of our good teams because, especially when you get a 1-8 matchup, that's the only thing that's going to do when you handle your business is hurt your strength of schedule. And so forth and so on. So, yeah, for those I won't say bottom dwellers, for those lower seeded teams that defeat those higher ranked teams, yes, it helps them out with their strength of schedule. But, overall, the computer takes the overall. Yes, Charles, I will admit, if you win your conference tournament, there is a bonus factor added in, i.e., North Carolina Central. But outside winning the conference tournament, no, it's nothing extra just for getting there and winning a game or winning two games.
I knew that artificial intelligence was going to catch us at some point. I knew it.
AI.
I knew it.
AI. You knew it was going to get into HBCU sports at a time. You're absolutely right. Before we go to our second break, let's get in here and look at the mid-major, as we like to call it. I believe you call it the under D1 poll rankings, if you would. We're going to start with number 5 with the slide there. Get in and see who is the national champion as softball for the mid-major division has been cut up here. Let's go to the next slide there. Number 5, we look at Claflin at 32-12, 18-4 overall.
Roy. Slide 3, Roy. Slide 3.
We're going into number 5. We have Claflin at 32-12, 18-4 in terms of their ranking. At number 4, you have Stillman, 36-17, 16-12. And as you see, Claflin has 52.08 points. At number 4, you have Claflin with 52.89 in terms of their ranking as they finish things off. Getting into number 3, Tuskegee. And I love these slides. This looks really good, Drew. You got some skill there with your design, not only with your poll rankings, but Tuskegee at 25-19, 18-6, 56.54 points in terms of what they got done this year. As we move into number 2, we go into CIAA country after we leave the SIAC. Number 2 is Bowie State. The Bulldogs are 35-14, 18-3, 60.2 total points. So you start to see a little bit of separation, moving out of the 50-point segments all the way up to 60. Bulldogs out of CIAA are at number 2. So who is number 1? If you've been paying attention, you know who number 1 ultimately is. It is number 1 is the Edward Waters, 43 wins on the season, 43-7, 23-3 in the conference play, 65.43. I think this is one of the poll rankings that's a little easier for most of us to agree with, if not all of us. At the end of the day, BCSN proudly announces 2023 non-Division I national champion, as we like to say, mid-major, is Edward Waters University. They get it done. Kudos. I know you announced this last week on Brian and the AD show, but I wanted to get out there and also announce it as part of the BCSN team about the softball. With that being said, since it was previously announced, we'll go straight into our second break. We'll come back on the other side, and then we'll give you some APR updates and provide you with the highs of the highs and maybe some lows of the lows. Stick with us, please. Right back after this second break.
Are you hungry for authentic Caribbean food like jerk chicken, oxtail, red snapper, shrimp, tofu, and rasta pasta? Well, find your way over to Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta.
Them belly full, but we hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, open daily from 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. And on Friday and Saturday, we're open till 4 a.m. Come to Mango's and put some spice in your life.
Oh, we've got a good thing going.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, 180 Auburn Avenue, right next to Royal Peacock in downtown Atlanta. For more info or directions, call 404-698-3992 or log on to mangoscaribbeanrestaurant.com. For instant coupons, text MANGOS to 313131.
Tell your mama hungry, papa hungry, brother hungry.
Mango's Caribbean Restaurant, authentic Caribbean cuisines.
Open up the door, tell your mama hungry.
T. Madden and Associates is a sophisticated and experienced law firm located in your neighborhood. We're turning injury to cash.
T. Madden and Associates obtained almost $2 million for my injury. They turned my injury to cash.
Now, we can't guarantee how much your injury is worth, but we've recovered millions for our clients. Call T. Madden and Associates at 833-PAID-123. That's 833-PAID-123.
This is Brian Fulford. AD Drew and I are co-hosts of the BCSN SportsWrap's. We talk about all things related to HBCU athletics. From the games, teams, coaches, and fan interest stories, we cover it all. You can find our shows on Facebook at BCSN SportsWrap, YouTube at MyJBN Online, and everywhere you listen to podcasts like Anchor, Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. You can also find the show on the Jericho Broadcast Network's app. Make sure to download. We look forward to you joining the conversation and being a part of the show.
Nope.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna loud, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bill inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Professor Bishop, Professor Drew. With that being said, I want to get into a little bit of this APR. I know a lot of folks talk about the concerns of the APR, and because we are fascinated with football and it gets us excited, rightfully so, a lot of our attention goes to football, and at times we see both those programs that are doing really well in football, or at least meeting the mark, and those that are not, and those that may be right on the border. We'll touch a little bit about this, but I wanted to go in a different direction. I want to focus on those programs that are getting it right, particularly those programs, HBCU-wise, that are having multiple years of getting it right. When I say right, I'm talking about those A+, those perfect scores. So with that, if you would, AD Drew, start us off and talk about what did you notice in terms of those schools that were able to get perfect scores, particularly multi-year APR perfect scores. When I say multi-year perfect scores, that means you can either look at APR 1 year, you take the data from that 1 year and you look at what a school has done with the APR in terms of their scores for that first year. As most of you all are aware of now, APR calculation actually is a 4-year rolling measure. And so you need to precede the year that you get your APR and look back 4 years. So that's where we talk about these multi-year APRs. But what I wanted Drew to specifically look at is some of these multi-year APRs that are batting what we would call 1,000 since we're in baseball and softball season. With that, Drew, go ahead and take it away.
If you take a look at the women's, the men's programs with multi-year APR, very, very short list, Dr. Cavil. And for multi-year APR, need everybody to know what the qualifications are. That means the last 4 academic years of record, you scored 8,000 all 4 years. That's a perfect multi-score APR. And we've got one BIAC school, one SWAC school, and one independent school on the men's side. Coppin State, men's tennis, Florida A&M, men's golf, and North Carolina A&T with men's golf. Quickly flipping over to the women's sports. If you look at the multi-year APR, you notice we've got a lot more schools on the women's list, Dr. Cavil. Who was that? Carlos, who said it a couple of Saturdays ago when he was in class, he always sat by the girls, and not because they were pretty, because they were smarter. Well, Carlos,
that's what he said.
We got data points.
Man is married now. But I'm not sure if I believe that, as he put out there when he sat by him. He called himself, too, as he said that, as he got in there, like, oh, yeah, I sat by them because they were smart. I'm like, okay, Carlos, good try. Go ahead, Drew. I just had to put that.
Mike Watson, Carlos, I got your data point for you right here. Look at how many women's programs on the APR. Here's your data point right here. And
you need to help him. You need to help him.
Yeah. And we've got over a dozen programs on this list. The one interesting thing I noticed when I looked at this list, though, Dr. Cavil, most of these sports are outdoor sports for some reason. I mean, you see Hampton with women's volleyball, Jackson State with women's volleyball and women's bowling, North Carolina A&T with women's bowling, but everything else is outdoor sport. Cross country, tennis, golf. I mean, what is it about the women in the outside that make them study more? I don't know. Somebody need to do a study on it and find out.
Great data point. I see you purging and really looking detailed for the numbers.
Yeah, definitely. The sport with the most APRs at 1,000 for this past year was women's bowling, who had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 programs with with 1,000 APRs for the year. That'll be slide 9, Roy, if you would, please.
That's pretty good.
That's a sport with the most with 1,000.
80 Drew, as you look at your next analysis, I wanted to get Charles in here and get his thoughts on it. Obviously, he's an avid golfer now. What are your thoughts in terms of these multi-year APRs, particularly this measure between so many of them being indoor sports, thinking about bowling as you get into a volleyball, but then also in terms of seeming to have multiple sports outside, and just to see the variation. Any thoughts come to your mind when you see these variations as somebody that follows this stuff as well?
Actually, we were joking about it, but I'm really curious in terms of what is it about those sports in particular when you take a look at bowling or golf or I don't know, the caliber of athlete recruited. I'm sorry, say that again, Eddie?
Tennis was another big one that had a lot of 1,000.
You know what? And what was running through my mind is what was the secret to the sauce with regards to those particular sports where you had multi-year high marks in regards to APR. It would be, and what was running through my mind is like, wow, wouldn't it be great to harness whatever those particular athletes are doing with regards to their studies and you sprinkle it across the board. But I was just curious, what was it about, those particular sports, because they're all Division I athletes. But it was those particular sports in particular that jumped out in terms of multi-year. That's a heck of a feat, heck of an accomplishment.
Those are things that I think about as well. Another one I'm always curious that you really don't get from this perspective is like, what were the major of the students? And I know that's a area that needs to be handled sensitively, if you would. Obviously, when you talk about majors, people go to major what they would like in often cases, what their interests are, or what type of career paths you would believe they want to do, which is important. But as we know, all majors are not necessarily created equal. And so from that perspective, I'm always curious of what this delineation may look like when you break it down major specific. With that being said, I don't necessarily want us to explore that now, but I wanted to kind of put that on the table. What is your next area that you found interesting when you're looking at your APR data, Drew?
Slide 14, Roy. That would be the schools that fell below the 930 just for this past year. And the sport that we all love, track and field. And look at how many teams we have in track and field. And you would wonder in a sport with track and field, which is only ran on track only happens on Saturdays at the collegiate level. So you would think in a sport where the kids are on campus Monday through Friday, not as much travel as you get in basketball or baseball or softball or even football when you have to leave campus after class on Thursday a lot of times. You would think track would be one of those programs that would have potentially wouldn't have as many teams that had a below 930 for this past academic year, considering, like I say, those kids are probably on campus more than any other set of athletes. Just something I was curious about.
Yeah, that's a very good point that you bring out there. And the uniqueness is when you look at track, notice you said track, which included cross country. So this is
cross country,
indoor, outdoor track and field, as well as cross country. And you do have some students that cross over between the two. And in some cases, these are also some different athletes. But it's encumbersome of both looking at indoor, outdoor track as well as cross country, which is ran in the fall. So it's seasonal to some case. So good points when you start looking at an area of concern and need, particularly based on a given sport. So great information when you get in terms of looking at these different areas. Obviously, football, everybody looked at football and basketball. Any one of those areas that gave you some concern too? As we get ready to close out this segment.
You can go to 17 just to see the list of football teams who are below the 930 for this past year. But once we get past this one, as you can see, there's a conglomerate of them. One conference you don't see on there, where you do see one, you see Norfolk, even though the BIAC 4-year average, no one was below. Norfolk is on the list for this past year at a 923. The only BIAC institution. Oh, Howard's on there also. So you had 2 BIAC institutions who for just this past year didn't get on there, but their 4-year average is still above the required 930. That's why you see them on some of the other lists that we saw. But if we could quickly go to the last 3 slides that I have, Roy, and these are short slides. These are the teams that we need to, that their fans need to start worrying about. Start with number 18. These are multi-year below 930 with the reports coming off after this year. These are some of the teams that need to be of concern. And then you look at baseball and softball, UAPB on baseball and softball on the list, along with Alabama A&M baseball. Next one, please.
What's concerning about that is oftentimes you see this delineation when there's a coaching change. You see that a little bit for Alabama A&M in baseball, but for Pine Bluff, in terms of baseball, it's been the same coach. Now, coach was out and sick, so we may have that have played a role. But again, as you said, this is multi-year. Go on to the next one.
Go back one, Roy. These are round ball teams that are multi-year below 930. Mississippi Valley
on there for both men's and women's. Valley on there for both men's and women.
Yeah, Valley is the concerning one.
That's IO.
Yeah. And finally, football.
The big one.
The big one. Say that one for last. These are the ones there with, unfortunately, my Florida A&M Rattlers being down at the bottom of the list, where we know Ron DeSantis is like to do some stuff with education in the state of Florida. You know, for some reason he thinks that he's the governor of the state of Mississippi. No offense, Charles, but you know, traditionally Mississippi has been one of the school education has ranked towards the bottom. Hey, I was in Alabama. The only school that was worse than Alabama. You know, Alabama was right down there with them. But Florida's trying to come down there to the bottom of the barrel with both Bethune and
both of y'all. Alabama people will say that. As long as we have Mississippi, we'll definitely like, hold on.
I raised money in the Alabama education system. I know Alabama education system is not.
Yeah, well, you know, man.
Hey, we would accept it, Charles.
Charles, you can do what the rest of Mississippi does. Since they like to pull Jackson State out of it, you can claim Jackson State is different from the rest of Mississippi since they won.
I always say that, you know, there's a different sort of arrogance with Jackson State. So.
Go ahead.
No, that's all I was saying. Bethune, Florida A&M, and Mississippi Valley State were the three institutions below 900. Not only are they below the 930 threshold, but they bring it up the rear below 900.
Let's see. 6 of those institutions have had coaching changes recently over the last couple of years. 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 of the 7. So I'm always interested in looking at that because oftentimes when you see coaching change, one of it is obviously losing records when you're not doing well. Oftentimes people don't realize there's also a component that hits on in terms of APR. Great work there, AD Drew. I'm glad you shared it with us and brought it to the table. Hopefully it gave our listeners and viewers a little more in-depth breakdown of APR in terms of what they've already heard, was specifically a little more gleaning in terms of looking at the multi-year faceted and doing the juxtapose to those that are doing really well and those that need some improvement. With that, let's get into our last break. We'll come back on the other side, close out on a little final weekend of baseball. We'll give you a quick update in terms of what we refer to as the mid-major under D1 in terms of those rankings, and then we'll get some final thoughts with Charles and Drew of what they see taking place this weekend before we hit the road next weekend and get into the SWAC baseball tournament to kind of close up the academic athletic year, I should say, as academic year is closed with graduations. With that being said, stick with us. We'll be right back after this last break.
Nope. Nope.
Come on, him?
Ooh, I like him.
Quick, the quicker picker-upper. Bounty picks up messes quicker, and each sheet is 2 times more absorbent, so you can use less.
He's an 8.
He's a 9.
Bounty, the quicker picker-upper.
Now, you can live in Texas and not have a good red meat blend. Texas Cowboy Dust is designed for steak and other red meats. It's out to be my most popular spice blend, made with onions, peppers, ground mushrooms, pink salt, and other spices. Texas Cowboy Dust also goes great with chicken, pork, vegetables, and adds a restaurant quality sheen to gravies and sauces.
It's like a loop machine. Going around town, people trying to get down.
Vanilla smoked sea salt seasoning is for seafood. The tarragon and fennel bring out the natural sweetness in seafood. I also use it in rice dishes, on yams, asparagus, blueberry pancakes, and believe it or not, chocolate chip cookies. Vanilla smoked sea salt adds a salty and savory component to sweet dishes that create a symphony for the tongue.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
The Cavil Group is a Florida-based marketing and training consulting firm. We help businesses communicate to their target audience and engage them in conversation. We also help to expand their audiences, which will ultimately result in growth for those organizations. In addition to being a certified constant contact specialist, my colleagues and I are also certified in John Maxwell Leadership Principles. We use these proven principles to conduct workshops, training, and private coaching sessions for individuals and companies looking to take things to the next level. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. Issues today, don't delay, call Cavil.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they want a lot, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Mills inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is out on assignment, so we have none other than AD Drew. During the break, we had Charles get into his HBCU marching sport summer band camp as he was getting it done, a little bit practicing his skills. Make sure we get him out there and let the world know. I saw you, Charles.
Closet bandhead.
Oh, yeah, closet bandhead. I see you. They say we all are. With that being said, let's get into our mid-major poll ranking the under D1. This is finalized, so I did want to share this and get this information out. Then we'll sneak back in with a couple of updates that Charles can provide us. With that being said, at number 5, we have Florida Memorial 22-24, 8 and 15, 37.59 points. They close out the season to jump into the 5th spot after winning the Black College World Series this past weekend. At number 4, as we continue to dig, we have West Virginia State, 28-12, 22-12, 42.49. Shout out to the Yellow Jackets as they are in number 4. At number 3, moving back into the NIA region from the Division II, is none other than Talladega, 28-18 1, 16-8, 48.70. They should be announcing that they're going to start their move officially from NIA to the NCAA Division II. So another program starting to make that move. Obviously, a destination a lot of folks may think about is the SIAC. We'll see what that means as we see NIA programs adding baseball programs. They're also losing some HBCU programs, not stopping baseball, thankfully, but moving from NAI to Division II. With that being said, at number 2, Savannah State, 33-14, 29-9, 51.4. This is always intriguing because a great season for Savannah State, but because of number 1, they probably didn't quite get the recognition that they probably should have got in terms of how good a season they had as they finished second in terms of the conference race, getting into the number 2 seed. Did make a deep run into that tournament into Saturday as they play for a championship on Sunday, taking down Albany State that Saturday night in a classic baseball event. But then they went into the College World Series because they extended their arms. They were 2 in barbecue in that event, really probably not getting a chance to show their skills in terms of what they had did all year long. With that being said, number 1, Albany State. Man, you're talking about a great season. Amazing seeing these 30-win seasons. They culminate theirs just outside of 40. Couldn't quite get there. 38-11, 32-4, 62.24. Just looking at closing out a special season. But with all that being said, 20-23, non-Division I national champions. They do win the regular season at SIAC, come just a game short. Some people would say an inning or out short of winning the SIAC tournament, but particularly winning the Black College World Series. So much done there. But closing out the season as the BCSN 2023 non-Division I national champions. With that being said, I want to go to you, Charles, before we get into some of this Division I baseball talk. I know you have some updates. Go ahead, if you would.
Some quick updates. Mississippi Valley State, they knocked off Alabama A&M today 5-3. Alcorn, they used 9 pitchers, Dr. Ville, to knock off Texas Southern in game 1 as they go extra innings and get the win 5-4 over Texas Southern. Jackson State, Bethune-Cookman, they are in the bottom of the 2nd inning. Bethune-Cookman jumps out early with a 4-0 lead on Jackson State. And it looks like Florida A&M and Alabama State looks like it is a rain out as that game is coming across as canceled. And waiting on word from Prairie View and Grambling in terms of what's going on with the PB and Grambling game.
According to the SWAC website, I see them with a final there. Grambling gets it done over Prairie View 6-3, winning that first matchup there. So I can give you a little update on that side. As you said, it looks like there's some rain that probably caused a rain out in terms of what that looked like in terms of that FAMU Alabama State. So it's fascinating to see what goes on there. See if we got any update over there in terms of Baton Rouge with Pine Bluff and Southern. No updates in terms of what I've seen out there. So with that being said,
there we go. Refresh.
As you get into this week and things of this nature going on, Drew, what are your thoughts kind of coming into this final week? What do you like to see teams do in regards to trying to finish up strong as they start to set themselves up for this tournament, which should be fascinating in Atlanta?
Quickly, before I say that, want to go back to our Division II champion,
Sure.
Albany State. 5 of their 11 losses were by 1 run.
Wow, Charles, you were shaking your head earlier. I know you really gonna be like,
wow. Another one by 3 runs. So
a great season and no trophies.
11 losses were winnable games, close games.
But they got the regular season. They got the regular season trophy.
Yeah, they got
the mile race.
But according
don't
to
take
AD,
all their trophies.
I mean, regular season and tournament. Yeah, you want that tournament love.
No, but getting into this, Doc, what I would like to see for this weekend, I got to put it out there. I just want to see the games. I want to see everybody play their game. You know, hopefully weather does not become a factor this weekend, and with that weather becoming a factor, we'll flip a seed one way or the other. I don't want to see a matchup get flipped because of rain over this weekend. So let's hope Florida A&M and Alabama State can make up that game from yesterday, either tomorrow or Saturday, and no one else gets to rain out, especially at the end of the week, and teams wind up being forced to play on Sunday, which may possibly affect pitching in that first round on Wednesday. May not necessarily affect the starter because your number one probably would have already thrown, but it could wind up affecting the bullpen and availability on Wednesday and possibly Thursday if games have to be made up and played on Sunday. So that's what I want to see. I want to see everyone have the opportunity to finish where they deserve to finish.
Well said. Great job. Charles, what are your thoughts in terms of what do you want to see out of this last weekend? Any particular team that you're focused on, or just overall thematic approach from a coach in terms of what they want to do with their team?
Yeah, I think AD touched on it. I'm curious in terms of will teams go deep into the bullpen in terms of trying to get their bullpen arms some throws in this weekend or whatever the case might be. Like you said, I think the ace is all pretty much through today, so they should be nice and fresh for the tournament next Wednesday. But just curious as to if teams go deep into the bullpen. Of course, I mentioned it Alcorn. They went with 9 pitchers today. Now they're not. Looks like they're going to fall short of the tournament, of course. But just curious in terms of what schematically what coaches are looking to do with their bullies this weekend, and to see if anybody can carry some momentum going into the weekend. You know, Jackson State, Bethune-Cookman. That's a very interesting series to me. Bethune-Cookman swept Jackson State in Jackson. Jackson State took 2 or 3. I'm sorry, Jackson State took 2 or 3 from Bethune-Cookman when they came to Jackson. So that's an interesting series. Alabama State, they clinched the SWAC East. It'll be interesting to see what Florida A&M can do against Alabama State.
And with the win and the loss today, Grambling is pretty much, in terms of my calculation, has basically clinched the Western Division. I might be off about that, but if my numbers are correct, Grambling today with their win and Texas Southern's loss to Alcorn have clinched the Western Division. So kudos to Grambling. Not official there, but we get in there, Charles.
And you know how Southern has that close and stretch kick. I want to see if they get some momentum going into the tournament because they seem to always rise up in the tournament.
Let's hope not.
If you're right in that closing kick.
Alabama State and Southern winds up in that 4th spot. That not the matchup that you want in your first round. If you are the number one to have to play the Jaguars in the first round of the tournament.
You don't want to see the cardiac Jaguars. You just don't want to see them.
I agree with you. That's just fascinating to see if that happens in terms of what we're referencing in the baseball tournament. For those that may not really keep up with the seedings, the number one one team in the East plays the number 4 team in the West, just like the number 1 team in the West plays the number 4 team in the East. And you switch over similarly for 2 and 3 seeds. So the 2 seed in the East will play the 3 seed in the West. The 2 seed in the West will play the 3 seed in the East. And as Drew alluded to, those 1s and 3 seeds go into the same bracket. So you also have folks that are trying to get away with Alabama State in terms of those West teams. So fascinating to see how that lines up in terms of the seeding. Looks like we know who's at the top. We know what 8 teams are in, but where would the teams be seated, particularly when you start looking at 2, 3, in some cases even 4 when you look at the West. So as Drew said, first thing fascinating, make sure they can get the games in. As Charles said, fascinating to see what are those matchups going to be based on how teams get out of here. Obviously looking at the arms in case people have to make up a game on Sunday. We'll see how far that will go and how challenging that may do to the rosters as we get into the tournament. I'm excited, as you can see. I'll have Deuce down there with me and hopefully get a chance to catch up with yourself, Drew, since you'll be in town. My understanding, Charles, you're trying to get in there, so we'll see if we can bring you a show live. If not, we might have a crew coming in here on Thursday to give you an update and get it done. So keep us updated. We'll keep up with us, and we'll keep you updated. Like I said, I'll be on the road. I'll be in Los Angeles, but I plan to be able to give you a show there to rub it in a little bit with Charles as he looks on as I get to rub.
Wait, you gonna come from Crypto Arena? Really?
Yeah. Hey, why not? Why not? You know,
I was gonna say the Staples, but I forgot to change it.
Hey, I might be in the Lakers locker room. Hell, I might be in the King James, let him allow me to be into his locker room himself. I mean, they'll be off that time, and they'll be hitting the road back again. So, we'll figure out what that looks like. With that being said, all kidding aside, appreciate you all to continue to do the work. As we close up, we're getting ready to close out the season. We'll have some other things for you over the summer in terms of getting you some great interviews to get you prepared as we get ready to get into this fall season, starting with football, which will be fascinating. And obviously, when you look at the SIAC, SWAC, CIAA, MEAC, in terms of those football media days, where things get in earnest in July. Thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. NIL King Rayquan, the Dean of HBCU Sports, come from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, 80 Drew. Be safe there. Make sure you get it in. And call me so I can get some updates in terms of flag football to see who comes out of there as a champion in terms of who's getting mauled and who's giving somebody a little side-eye now. I think they're supposed to be flags, so they need to be full in the flags. So they got to be careful with all this rough and tumble things they're doing there. But I guess you get your emotions in the game if it happens. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Bill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Go ahead, Drew.
I was saying the games are live on YouTube and NFL Flag on YouTube, so you can get it on. You'll see some amazing plays. That's all I'm gonna say.
I'll check it out. I'll check it out. You a grade next week. Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, every Tuesday at 6 o'clock Central Standard Time. We look forward to next week as we discuss the latest news for me from Los Angeles. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, DrKenyattacavil, Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. That's for you, Charles. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab on Twitter. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab on YouTube and Facebook. Dream big. Continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles?
Of course.
Drew?
Lecture.
LA, dismiss.